Great. And so the answer, the reason that you gave, very much is possible that it's your limiting belief. It's a story you made up. Because if your reason was it's too hard, there are no good men out there, making money is difficult in this market, there's too many people doing what I do. If that's your reason, it could also be the opposite for somebody else, right? Somebody that's successful in that area, I'm sure doesn't have the same reason. Or if you really think about it, you can come to that conclusion by yourself. So everything that you decided unconsciously, it's what you are believing right now. So then what do you do about that? What to do about that belief that you have been able to identify? So you take the time to consciously create for yourself a new belief. So how do you do that? Well, instead of thinking like, how am I gonna come up with something, think about what decision you're gonna make for your life. So say you're gonna decide that from now on, men are trustworthy. And you ask yourself, what is the evidence? So then you start by looking at the evidence. If you ask your brain a question, because your brain is a search engine, your brain will give you evidence of that new decision you make. And it could be something small, but as you continue to reinforce this new decision for yourself, you will continue to find more evidence. So another thing that I didn't tell you about is that when you find this limiting belief, go ahead and also ask yourself a few things like, what are the thoughts that come to my mind when I'm going over about this belief, when I believe this thought, when I have this thought about, or the reason why I'm not where I want to be? What are the thoughts that accompany that? Like, what comes with that? And just journal down for a moment. And then ask the question, what action do I take when I believe the thought? Is it maybe fighting? Is it defending? Is it retreating? Is it avoidance? What is the action that you take when you believe the story in your mind? And then ask yourself, what is the result? When you take that action that you believed, you had to believe, you felt something, so it made you take an action. You had thoughts, you had feelings, so you took an action. And so what are the results from that action? So if your belief is that all men are shit, maybe your action was, well, never even take anyone serious, never even allow somebody to talk to me seriously, never get myself involved or even try to have a conversation with a guy, right? So maybe those are the actions you took because you felt disgusted by them. You felt like you were just not allowing it. So now you're going back and you're really looking at what result that causes. So really look at the result that causes you. So the result might be you never go out on a date with somebody that you actually like. Or maybe the result is, well, you didn't get very far with you didn't get a call back, or you've been rejected. Maybe the result is something like that. And so you start to see and to really notice that these stories are not helping you. And it's very important that you actually apply these tools, not just to think about them, but really draw them down. So really ask yourself that. And so now, after we move on from that, we're gonna ask, what is the decision? What is the new belief that I'd like to integrate into my life? And so the new decision becomes simply a statement. Sometimes it might be the opposite. Sometimes it might just be something more empowering than what your previous belief is. So if I'm thinking, to stay with the same example, all men are shit, maybe my new empowering belief or my new empowering decision that I'm going to apply into my life is that men are extremely trustworthy, or that they are amazing men in the world and the right man is coming to my life as we speak. Or, if my limiting belief is I never get good opportunities in my life because I am just not enough. then maybe the empowering belief, the empowering decision that you're creating for your life could be, my life is full of opportunities and I'm always drawing people of influence into my life. And so what do you do with these new decisions? Now you created these new decisions and you're gonna write down what is the evidence of those new decisions that you decided on, that you decided to focus on. You're gonna write down evidence, because what you focus on expands, right? It's just like, quantum physics. Really, anything that you look for a certain amount of time, you're gonna find more evidence and more evidence of. So then you not only do it once, so you decided on the new decision, but you're not only going to write it once. That new decision is going to become your inner mantra, your inner monologue, your inner decision, your inner story. Every time in life when you get triggered and you feel that same feeling of feeling like all men are shit, or money's hard to be made, or you catch yourself noticing that little voice, now you have made it a decision to think differently. So now your mind can instead go there. So it's very important that you do this in a safe place, right? Like hopefully in a day or in your mornings, that you start to analyze your limiting beliefs and you go through the steps, right? You ask yourself, when I have these limiting beliefs, what are the thoughts that come to my mind? What are the actions that I take because of the thoughts that come to my mind? And what are the results that I take when I believe that story? And then doing the work of creating a new decision for yourself, so that when you're in the supermarket and there's some mean lady just getting in front of you and getting you angry, and you just don't, and you have angry thoughts, you don't think that you are an angry person, you don't act angry, but you start to think like, no, I made a decision that I am calm and I am focused in gratitude every single day of my life. So that in those moments you can actually apply your new belief. And it's so important that you don't do this when you're being triggered out in life, because it is kind of impossible to do when it's in your body and your rational brain cannot think, cannot function. It's very impossible to do it when you're heated, because when you're in the fury and the neocortex, the frontal lobes shut down, what's leading is your emotional brain, unless you have done the work of noticing the limiting beliefs and deciding a new story. So now that you have you've created new decisions for yourself, because another word for belief is decision, right? To materialize it, to make it into an action, is decisions. I love that. That came into my life not long ago. A new belief is really a decision. So now that you have these new decisions, you listen to it repeatedly. You say it to yourself repeatedly. Put it somewhere that you can see it all the time. Record it. Listen to it 3 times a day. Do it write it down in your morning practice. But make it actionable so that you can start to get the stuff in your subconscious, because what's happening is that for your whole life, be it 20, 30, 35, 40 years old, you have had these beliefs in your mind that the seeds were planted since you were a child. And throughout your life, you kept finding evidence and evidence. So now that you're going to change the brain, that you're going to change the connections and the memory in your brain, you want to reinforce the evidence, and you want to reinforce yourself with this new decision so much that when that limiting belief comes, you'd stop believing it. You know where to change your focus, because the mind can only be in one place at the same time. So if you hear it, if you notice it, then you're not the thought. But when you don't notice the thought, you become the thought, right? So if you notice that you are having angry thoughts, you can actually separate. But if you don't notice and you have angry thoughts, you become angry, right? And something beautiful that Buddha said was that the thoughts in your mind are not your thoughts. And it's really cool. I just read a book called The Field that proves scientifically how the mind is just an antenna. and it's just looking for stuff out there in the field, right? So all these memories that we're thinking are not even stored in the brain. They're just things that we're focusing on. So what we focus on expands. Another way to reinforce your new decisions or your new beliefs in your life, to really transform your beliefs, is to visualize. And I'm gonna make a new another video on a short visualization that hopefully helps you guys with this, but is to visualize, because the brain does not know the difference between imagination and reality. So if the brain doesn't know between imagination and reality, every time that you visualize yourself feeling and experiencing and sensing your new decision, what you're doing is that you're creating a memory. So now your brain goes to that memory. Now it sees it as evidence, right? And so it really starts to reinforce at a subconscious level this new decision that you created for your life. And there you start to really become, the one who's leading the brain in the direction that you want it to go, instead of you working for the brain, which is just miserable. It's just survival, because the brain is just done for, as it's given to you, it's just for survival. But you have to really, download new apps into it. You have to program it to work for you to thrive. I hope that was super useful. It has been so useful to me. This is a practice that I am applying and continue to apply constantly in my life, and I am seeing so many changes. So I wanted to share it with you. And if you like this video, please share it with your friends, and please subscribe if you're new to this channel. I'd love to see you around again. Thank you.